Welcome to your ultimate pit stop, Piston Pundit. As the EU locks in a 15% tariff deal with the US, Canada, under Prime Minister Mark Carney, is taking a radically different route. No rushed compromises here. Instead, Canada is holding firm, prioritizing long-term national interests and the 2026 USMCA review. In this video, we unpack Canada's bold stand, Trump's mixed signals, and how provinces and trade partners are pivoting in real time. Buckle up, because what looks like delay might just be Canada's most strategic move yet. Canada's tactical gambit, staying the course or shifting gears. Since Trump's return to office, Canada has taken a different path than the EU, which quickly accepted a 15% tariff for investment deal. Prime Minister Mark Carney has opted for a slower, long-term strategy, rejecting what he called a quick optics agreement. He argued that Canada's strength lies not in flashy purchases, but in deeply entrenched supply chain integration and consistent energy exports, assets that don't grab headlines but carry lasting weight. When the US announced a sweeping 35% tariff on non-USMCA goods, citing fentanyl concerns, Carney immediately pushed back. He highlighted that Canada accounts for just 1% of fentanyl entering the US, and vowed to protect domestic jobs, expand trade relationships, and avoid hasty concessions that compromise sovereignty. Unlike the EU's speedy compromise, Canada is holding out, banking on trade rules, integration depth, and the 2025 to 2026 USMCA review as its key leverage point. Carney's message is clear. Canada won't settle just to settle. By prioritizing substance over spectacle, this firm posture could catch Washington off guard and flip the script in months to come. But Washington's messaging isn't just unclear, it's contradictory. And that's where Canada gains unexpected traction. Trump's trade double clutch, contradictions in overdrive. From Canada's perspective, US messaging has been all over the map. Publicly, Trump dismissed Canada, saying, "We haven't been focused on Canada," just before the August 1st tariff deadline. That gave Ottawa political cover to delay or even walk away without taking the blame. Privately, however, U.S. trade officials like Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick and USTR Jamieson Greer described the talks as constructive. The disconnect raised a crucial question: who's really driving the negotiation? Canada's team, led by Carney, Dominic LeBlanc, and Ambassador Kirsten Hillman, maintained a unified, disciplined front. Ironically, Trump's erratic messaging played right into their hands, reinforcing the image of Canadian stability under pressure. This internal contradiction in U.S. messaging has weakened its own leverage. With Trump blustering and his team soft-pedaling, Ottawa has gained space to shape timelines and manage expectations. Even as tariffs rise, LeBlanc has kept lines of communication open, signaling talks will resume in August. Right now, clarity and consistency, not cash, are Canada's sharpest negotiation tools. Before we delve deeper, hit that like button and subscribe to Piston Pundit. It keeps you in the loop with every key update, on wheels or in trade talks. Now let's shift gears and explore how Canada's economy is absorbing the impact of this tariff storm. Testing the chassis. Can Canada's economy withstand the impact? Canada's economy has taken a hit, but it's holding up, for now. Key sectors like steel, aluminum, lumber, and autos were first to feel the blow when the U.S. imposed 25% tariffs in February, followed by a sweeping 35% hike in August. While over 90% of exports remain protected under USMCA, non-USMCA goods now face steep duties, sometimes hitting 40% with transshipment penalties. So far, the impact has been modest. Canada's GDP dipped just 0.1% in April, with another slight decline in May. Many firms preloaded shipments under treaty-safe terms, keeping the average tariff burden around 2.3%. But that buffer may soon fade, especially for auto parts and machinery, nearly 27% of Canada's exports to the U.S. To cushion the blow, Ottawa rolled out targeted tariffs on U.S. metals, created the Large Enterprise Tariff Loan Facility, and protected domestic automakers from counter-tariffs. The One Canadian Economy Act is also breaking down provincial trade walls. Canada's economy hasn't stalled, but as pressure mounts, its structural durability is about to be tested. And while Ottawa holds the line, provincial leaders are hitting the gas with their own bold moves. Provinces hit the gas, from Ottawa's patience to regional pushback. While Ottawa takes a cautious stance, provinces are shifting into gear. Ontario Premier Doug Ford has openly pushed for stronger trade ties with China, stating Canada should deal with whoever plays fair, a pointed jab at U.S. unpredictability. Ontario alone trades over $43 billion with China annually, and some breweries have already swapped U.S. aluminum for Chinese supply to bypass tariffs. Nationalism is rising. With 91% of Canadians supporting reduced U.S. dependence, Buy Canadian campaigns and boycott apps are gaining traction. The movement isn't just symbolic, it's reshaping behavior. Provinces are acting fast. Ontario has banned U.S. liquor, Alberta is eyeing retaliatory tariffs, and Quebec is reassessing supplier contracts. This dual-track response, Ottawa negotiating cautiously while provinces diversify, is becoming a hallmark of Canada's evolving trade playbook. Carney's One Canadian Economy Act aligns with this shift, reinforcing interprovincial trade and boosting national cohesion. Canada's response is no longer talk, it's coordinated action. Provincial agility, backed by federal frameworks, is accelerating Canada's pivot from U.S. dependence to broader global engagement. But ultimately, all eyes are on the next big curve ahead, the 2025 to 2026 USMCA review. Eyes on the apex, USMCA review as the real power play. The road ahead leads to the 2025 to 2026 USMCA review, a pivotal opportunity for Canada to rewrite trade terms rather than yield to current tariff pressure. Article 34.7 mandates a 6-year joint review to assess the agreement's effectiveness, with options to renew, revise, or exit entirely by 2026. Carney sees this as Canada's true moment of leverage. If the U.S. demands tighter rules of origin or new supply chain mandates, Ottawa, and likely Mexico, can counter that recent tariffs have already undermined U.S. credibility. Canada is also developing a parallel strategy, a proposed regional security economic pact that could reduce dependence on U.S.-driven frameworks. It's a quiet but calculated way to build leverage heading into negotiations. Across the Atlantic, France's pushback on its EU deal mirrors Canada's caution. Macron argued the EU lacked enough bite to get fair terms, a warning Ottawa seems to be heeding. With internal divisions clouding U.S. messaging, Canada's unified, patient approach could prove decisive. This isn't about short-term headlines. It's about shaping the rules that will define North American trade for the next decade. So where does that leave Canada's long-term game plan? Final verdict. Canada's patience isn't hesitation, it's precision. Canada's refusal to rush into a deal wasn't hesitation, it was intentional strategy. While the EU went for quick optics, Ottawa prioritized long-term stability and structural leverage. Carney turned Trump's public indifference into diplomatic breathing room, while provinces explored new partners and supply chains began adjusting under pressure. With the USMCA review approaching in 2025 to 2026, Canada's patience may transform into power. By holding the line now, it enters future negotiations with a stronger hand, broader coalitions, and a more resilient economic foundation. This isn't about tariffs. It's about timing, leverage, and smart positioning. Now we want to hear from you. Do you think Canada's slow play strategy will pay off in the USMCA review? Should provinces take more initiative in shaping international trade? And are rising tariffs pushing Canada closer to long-term independence? Or risking deeper vulnerabilities? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if you haven't already, subscribe to Piston Pundit to stay updated on the next vehicle developments and global trade shifts. Thanks for watching and see you next time. You can now check out any of the videos on the screen. There's plenty more to explore.